let's lie down to get started, and I'm going to talk a little bit. But I would like you to set up in a restorative position. So the three things you'll need is either a large bolster to put your legs up on, and or a stack of pillows or blankets, some padding for your pelvis, and just to soften it, just to make a little cradle for it so it can relax, not a lot of compression, and then a towel or a blanket to put under your neck. So these three items. And most important thing is to really make sure the pelvis is relaxed. So, you could have a little more height than I have here, but we just want to soften it. Something to bring your legs up onto so the femurs can relax out of the hips. And then not too much for the neck. You can't really see me, but not so much the back of the head, but just slipping something under the neck. So it's like, just to support that cervical spine in a really good way. So there's almost no pressure on it. So we want the neck relaxed, the hips relaxed, and certainly the pelvis relaxed. And then just settle in. And I'll make a few suggestions as you're settling in and relaxing. Now the self-inquiry of yoga. So always many doorways we could, open up our exploration and our self-inquiry of this yoga. Certainly we can, start with the visceral layer of the physicality, the groundedness of the body. Always lovely to begin with the sensitivity of our breathing. But for this session, I would like to begin with the mind itself, and particularly the thoughts that appear and disappear within the mind. And oftentimes we just take this aspect of ourself for granted. It's a a layer or an aspect that seems to always be there. The channel is always on, or it's changing channels, without our explicit consent. So I'd like to just look at it a little bit more closely. So let your breath just be very calm and relaxed. And make sure your body maintains a relaxed position. So we just let the body do as it will. Just let the vital energy, just let it swirl around, but no need to bring attention to it. Bring your attention, however, to the thoughts that come into your presence. Yes, the imagery and the thoughts. And this can be through imagery, this can be through internal voices, internal dialogue, or whatever form your thinking and your thoughts take that might be unique to you. And what I would like you to do is I would like you to just observe with as little interest in the content as possible. Observe when a thought comes into your presence. Observe when you're become aware of a thought, and stay back from it. Try not to get involved in the specifics of it, the content of it, and also observe when it begins to fade away. And this is a little tricky because there will be a part of you that is very habituated to getting involved with the thoughts. Very, very challenging sometimes to relax back from them. But in a way, it actually is a relaxation. So you're relaxing that part of yourself that is habituated, is addicted to, is even unconscious that you're getting involved with, entangled with these thoughts. So let that part of you relax. And just keep relaxing back. It's almost like you're just relaxing or floating down into just an open-ended presence, an open-ended awareness. And from this open presence, this open awareness, you just get to observe that the thoughts themselves don't come from anywhere. They just appear. So this thought will appear. We're going to attempt not to engage it, and we're going to let it disappear. So just relax with that for a bit. And very often when you follow this habit of engagement, then what typically happens is that will then just another and space before the next thought begins to arise, and begin to be interested in that space. Don't do anything with that space. Don't analyze it. Don't generate more thoughts about it, but just appreciate, be interested in the spaciousness that is available to you before the next thought begins to arise. a curiosity about this space between the thoughts is, then you can see for yourself that we have no idea where the thought comes from. So this is part of it. This is part of starting to cultivate a certain spaciousness for ourselves, that wherever the thought comes from, I'm just suggesting it comes from nowhere, yes? So it just arises, but it's arising in this spaciousness that you are holding as yourself. You can apply minimum interest to it. Yes, you just watch it and not be concerned about the content. It can be, serious and engaging, or it can be silly and mundane. It doesn't matter. And then the same thing, it just starts to dissipate. It's hard to even see that dissolution because it just goes back to nothingness. So we just want to observe that, this unengagement with this process that we're usually so close to. We cannot cultivate this kind of spaciousness. And what becomes then another layer of self-inquiry, especially if you've allowed the body to relax to a place where it's challenging even to identify it as the body. So this next layer, if you will, is to explore, yes, the exploration that the body itself is only images and sensations in the mind. So one of the invitations of yoga, one of the primary investigations of yoga, is that the body is in the mind. And so that's what we're attempting to do. We're attempting to look at the mind as just an ongoing series of images and sensations that simply arise, attempt to catch our attention. They either do or they don't, and then they fade back away. And then at a certain point, what this allows us to reorient to our true sense of self, our sense of self as this space, spaciousness, yes, space, spaciousness, awareness, to see that this is all arising at a place where we can observe it. So we get to have a sense of clarity. We get to relax with this clarity that it's all simply appearing. It's almost as if we were, maybe not the best analogy, but if you're watching a screen and you're not really interested in watching anything, but you have a remote that you can keep flipping channel to channel to channel to channel, and there's no real interest. It's just an image comes up and an image fades. An image comes up and an image fades. But the whole time you have this presence that you can observe this process with. And this is what yoga is primarily interested in exploring, that you are the presence. You are not the conglomeration of physical sensations we call the body. And you're certainly not these channels that keep flipping. You're not these images that keep presenting themselves. The reason we believe that we are is because we get entangled with them. We give them a certain solidity, a certain meaning. a certain reality. So the real self-inquiry is to connect with, honestly and experientially and uniquely, personally connect with this presence where your entire life is arising and it is fading at the level of these objective experiences, whether that's the world, your perceptions, whether that's your mind, your thoughts and images, or whether that's physical sensations of the body. So let's move now from simply observing the thoughts rising and fading, and let's just move into the body, but just at the level where there is something that is vital, that is energetically moving through your system. And just be curious as to what that is without needing to label it pelvis or upper spine or hips, but just this fact that this directly verifiable fact that there is something vital energetically moving through the whole system. And I'd just like you to be with that for a bit and just let the mind do what it will. Again, just let things arise and fade, and you can minimize your interest in the content. We're not interested in the content. Just as we're not interested in defining, physical aspects of the body anatomically or mechanically, we're more interested in the rawness of this vitality that you can actually feel. And then just begin to breathe in whatever way feels best, just to acknowledge the presence of the breath. The presence of the breath that certainly has a connection to this vitality, has a connection to your capacity to observe your thoughts. And sometimes just the intention to connect with your breathing is another layer of grounding. So we breathe in and we breathe out, and we just feel this sense of aliveness. And this really, it takes us in. This is always a good opening to our asana practice, our hatha yoga, because this is what we're attempting to do. We're attempting to relax into a place of presence, a place of self-awareness, where we're not having to be involved with or attached with or deciphering objective experiences. Anything that comes and goes during the practice, we're not that interested. What we're really interested is what does not come and go. What is a constant? What is this presence that is always with us? I'm always aware. However, the things I'm aware of differ from moment to moment. So this is a nice way to just ground and sort of set the inquiry at this level. And then we take this inquiry into each and every asana. We're not having to change that. It doesn't turn into a technique. Each asana means something different. The primary investigation stays the same. Okay, so let's come on up from that, if you will. And I want to just tangle up the legs a bit. So if you're sitting up with both legs out, let's take the left leg and put it underneath the right leg and bring the left foot a little bit back towards that right hip, but try not to sit on the heel. And we're going to do the same thing with the right leg, bring it up and over and bring it a bit towards that left hip. So we just have the right leg on top, both legs crossed, both feet back towards the hips, but we're not sitting on that left heel. This is fine the way this is. If you want to tighten it, you can see, but my knees are not aligned because of just my hips. But if I came forward a bit and brought my knees into more alignment, then this will just torque it up. It just tightens the whole operation there. So that's up to you. And just so you know where we're going to move to from here, if this just feels, not acceptable or accessible to your body, I completely understand. At some point, we're going to open up the bottom leg so it's just the right leg over the single leg extended. You can do that now or any time. This is where we're headed with this. So your choice, but it's nice. I avoided this particular position, this shoelace position, for many years. And once I started easing into it a bit, it just really changed the whole personality of my hips. So this is where we'll start. And coming forward, depending on how tight the hips are and the pelvis, you might want some pillows or a bolster just to really ease this body weight in. And the moment you feel the tightening, you feel your body start to restrict, just slow down and try to relax. So it's almost like you're literally breathing relaxation into the tightness. We don't want or need to go to our full depth and struggle and wiggle and wish this wasn't happening. We want to appreciate that it's happening because the body's responding, but we want it to feel very taken care of. We want it to feel very relaxed, almost a sense of warmth from this, this resistance. So we're not interested in resisting the resistance. We can just relax into it. So let the weight of your head relax and your shoulders relax, and we'll just sink into this lovely. This is, suppose it has the potential to be lovely. So let's just put it that way. And also, this idea of, remaining very grounded. So this is, often, it can be a challenge on three levels. The first level is just, staying with a level of discomfort for an extended period of time. Just the natural tendency of our habits is for the mind to come up with its usual strategies to get us away from that. So that can be very ungrounding. The second level of ungroundingness is when the mind just would rather be thinking of something else, sort of the habits of the day, the habits of the week, all of these preoccupations and the self-importance of the ego. Why would you sit in an uncomfortable position for several minutes when you could be thinking all of these grandiose thoughts? And then the third layer that can be somewhat ungrounding is my, insistent chatter with these somewhat incomprehensible esoteric statements about yoga. So first and foremost, we want to be really just grounded in the body. No goals, not interested in wishful thinking or fantasies or abstract ideas, but that whatever it is that you're exploring is arising directly, and you're allowing your awareness to simply permeate it. Your awareness to simply inquire. Is this true for me? Does this have relevance for me? And we just continue that. So this is why the relaxation, the softening, the breath, the detachment from the content of the thoughts is all just to allow us to descend into the body, to descend towards this a place of our true and deeper self in fullness completion and in ultimate wholeness.
Good. So let's just relax up from here. Just roll up.
And if you're able to just let that left leg, it may already be extended out. If it is, you can just keep it there. Just come on up and just relax the lower back. So we're just shifting this to the half position. If you had some bolstering up front, I would put it over to the left side. So we have our right leg still on top. Now the left leg is extended. And before we come forward, I'm just going to invite you to elongate the spine a bit here and just twist gently to the left. Bring the chin close to the shoulder if you can to get the upper spine. And then the forward bend now will come over to the left. So that's why I said to put your bolstering over to the left so you can help maintain the twist if you would like, but also, again, to support any torso weight that might be too severe for the tightening of your body. But try not to just let the weight of the head sort of dangle in midair so you have to strain the neck muscles. Even if it's a bit uncomfortable, be careful, but let the weight of the head be significant here to pull you into the tightness, especially these scalene muscles. They can just get so tight. All of this. So many reasons why they tighten. I won't go into this right now. Just being human. And obviously the process of the thoughts arising and dissipating don't go away. So you always have the option to, allow your exploration to continue. So, because ultimately, as we see, we're not really exploring the body. The body is simply images and sensations in the mind. The body is in the mind. So observe this process. What are these thoughts doing? Are they distracting you? Are they judging you? Are they confused? Are they memories? It doesn't matter. We're not interested in the content. I would like you to just stay a bit removed, allow them the space to come and go, let the channels keep changing. Try not to take any of these thoughts personally, but just allow this, this incredibly direct and primal relationship of the merging of the body and mind. So you literally, in your own experience, cannot tell the difference. Don't take anyone's word for that. Go closer in, go deeper in.
And if the twist to the left starts to feel a little tedious, or you feel like you'd like to explore, you can always drift the upper body, a couple of sways right and left, and you may find a better place you want to do it. So if you want to explore that at this time, and sometimes the movement is good that we don't, sort of get stuck in one position and we're just holding on. If you ever feel your body start to brace or you're just holding still, let some passive motion happen so the stillness comes from a much more relaxed place. Holding still is not stillness. Relaxation and losing track of this, sort of the imagery of the body, this is stillness. And if you now are still over to the left, just bring the spine back to straight. So I'd like to everyone now to have a relatively straight spine, and then drift up from here, coming out of the half position. And then we'll take that right leg and open it out, and open both legs nice and wide. So let's do a full straddle position here, and then we'll continue to come forward. And again, afford yourself any bolstering you need. It's really primarily to make sure you're not going too deep too quickly. So wherever, if it's your hands or the bolstering or the forearms, wherever you can support so that the hips don't over tighten. We don't want the hips to over tighten. We don't want the body to go into protection mode in any way. It's a very interesting approach to the body where we're coming right up to the edge of discomfort, which it will often react because certainly we want to be cautious of injury, but how then to stay at that edge and relax and soften and allow yourself to just draw everything inward. We want to not have a preoccupation with the body when we're in these poses. I know that may sound counterintuitive. We're doing physical hatha yoga, but the preoccupation is not with the physical body. There is no preoccupation, actually. This is what we're attempting to explore, is do you have the capacity to release your preoccupations? Because the preoccupations are of the mind. So that is the invitation of yoga, is to explore the mechanism and really just the fabric of the mind, the fabric of a thought. We're not interested in the content. So what are we interested in? What is this imagery that is appearing and disappearing all the time? It's a good thing to explore.
Another way to loosen up this this habit of preoccupation is to go back to what I was saying earlier in relation to the body, is to feel that there is something vital that is energetically moving through the system. And what is this? And this is very different than being preoccupied with a hamstring or a synovial joint or a place of alignment where we think it is right or wrong. No, there is no right or wrong. There's just simply this vital energy that is moving, is pulsating, is vibrating, is alive in your system. This is what we're interested in. So without these preoccupations, the exploration becomes extremely expansive, extremely non-linear. The body is in the mind. Good. So let's come on up from here, please. And let's just lie down and take a bit of a rest. So make yourself comfortable. If you'd like, you can always, continue to use that pad for the pelvis. It's if you get it just right and the pelvis can relax, it's so conducive to really relaxing. And it depends individually on your lower lumbar curve. It's different for everyone. But the more that lumbar curve straightens out from, basically walking and sitting in chairs and cars, it starts to straighten. And then so lying flat can have a discomfort there and a strain. And that just radiates into the sacrum and the pelvis. So just to soften it, sometimes you'll feel it. It just allows the whole body to be like, oh, I'm not having to have this internal strain of my lumbar curve. But any way that is most comfortable for you. Just we'll relax for a bit before we move on. Okay, so let's come on up from this, and we're going to go into the lumbar in this interesting way. Some of you have done this before. It's just a very lovely way to really explore. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll up a blanket. Yeah, and you don't have to have it very big because we're going to apply pressure with the leg on this, and we're going to isolate one side of the lumbar. So it doesn't have to be a really big roll. Just it'll be appropriate to how much stress you can safely and comfortably tolerate in the lower back. But what I would like to do that's a little different is I would like to have this roll in back of you and only place it so it's coming to half uh, only the left half, right up to the spine. It can be a little on the spine because it's soft, but we don't want this to be all the way across. We want it to only to be on the left half of the lumbar spine. Yep. So this will be specific to when we move the leg. So what you're going to do then is place this, come on down on it. And like I said, if it's a little bit on the spine, fine. But if it's onto the right part of the lumbar, not so good. Move it back over to the left. So you'll keep the feet on the floor till you come down over this. Yeah. And then once you're, yeah, it feels okay. You may need to, adjust it. If you need to adjust it, please do. And then there's going to be 3 positions for the legs. Just the neutral position with the legs out, so it takes some of the pressure off. But if you need to at any point and you want to bring that right leg up and in, so the sole of the right foot is on the inside of the left leg, this will take a lot of the pressure off. This is really your safety valve here if you need to, or your release valve. Yeah. But after we relax here for a while, what we're going to do with this is take that left leg and slide the foot up so the sole of the foot is somewhere on the inside. Bring it up nice and high and really kind of pull that hip open and compress into the lower back. And then the knee just gets to relax over towards the floor. May not touch the floor. And if this doesn't feel safe, you can bring something under that knee and kind of play with it. You can kind of support it up a bit, push it away, see how much you can, yeah, because there's a few things going on here with the hip flexor and the SI joint and the left side of the lumbar. And plus we're going to be here for a while. So if you feel good, you settled in here, the compression from the blanket is appropriate, then let's do that. We'll bring that left foot up and in and just let it hang over to the left side. It was saying in a class on Friday that what's really primary to this practice is to pay attention. But I don't think I really took it far enough, because I wasn't meaning that we really need to pay attention to how is your lower back feeling right now? What is the internal dialogue in the mind? How are you breathing? We always have this available if we want to direct our attention to these things. Yes, and that's part of that's sort of an outer layer of approaching your body and mind and breath, is to pay attention to them. But underneath this layer is a very profound relationship of awareness and attention. So the yoga is suggesting that we rest as awareness, that we are aware. And then we have this incredible gift, this incredible power even, that we can coalesce, we can condense that awareness, open-ended, undifferentiated, infinite, expansive awareness that we are, and then we can condense that into attention. So we get to direct our attention. So this is what we really want to pay attention to, that we have this gift and that we're doing this all the time. And when it gets really tricky and when we begin to struggle a bit or suffer a bit, is when we get lost in the attention. And we think the attention, what we're paying attention to, whether it's the world or others or objects or the body, whatever it happens to be, we start to think that's real. But that's simply a condensing of awareness. And we can withdraw that at any time. It's so beautiful. So we withdraw the attention and we rest in awareness. We rest in this, in yoga, we would call this our true self. So this is what we want to pay attention to. And then certainly if we want to use this gift and direct that attention like a very fine sutra into something we're feeling or thinking or experiencing, fine, we do that. But we don't have to get preoccupied. We don't have to get worried about it, because where we rest, who we are, is at home in awareness. Good. So if you still have that left leg drawn up, let's just straighten that left leg out initially. Let's move out of this slowly in segments here. So you'll feel a little bit of that release, like, ah, nice. And no rushing. So you can actually feel the energetic shifts from the depth of the tightness to how it's opening a bit and shifting. Again, that vitality, that vital energy that's moving through your system. And then let's pull that right leg up. So the weight of that right leg now pulling you off to the right and then releasing out of this. And then the more you lean over to the right, you can just pull that roll out from under the lower back. You can straighten out the right leg, and we'll just take a moment here. So we're going to continue on that left side in a moment. Same thing, only going forward. So just relax here for a bit.
and then curl over to your side, draw yourself up, and let's extend that right leg out. So again, we're going to bring, again, the left leg in. So this is where we have the left leg in the backward bend with the half roll under, and now we're going to come forward. So nice, gentle forward bend. Again, a couple of sways before you settle into your stillness so you can see where the tugging and the weight intersect. Relax anything in that neck muscle, the upper spine, the weight of the skull. So pretty much the same area, except now we're forward instead of back. So you want to kind of feel that. Sometimes it's really nice to sort of thread into that specificity of what you're feeling and then just let it expand out. See if you can allow the sensations to really, even beyond the border of what you consider your body, just let the sensations breathe out. It's very interesting in a way. Yoga is really it's cultivating this inner world where we begin to let go of the need to assign meaning. And this is such a powerful thing to explore because it extends far beyond what we would call a yoga practice. So if you can let go of that need to assign meaning in your pose, with your discomfort, with the discursive mind, then what is your experience? And we can go back and forth between that. Then what is your experience when you assign meaning? And what is the validity of that meaning? So that's you might call it the formal yoga, when we're actually doing that level of self-inquiry. And then that expands into every moment of our life when we begin to realize the very powerful realization that we're giving everything meaning. Nothing in itself has meaning. And so to start to reclaim that, it's very similar to what I was saying earlier about this duality between resting in awareness and presence and just the purity of your consciousness, and then how that gets funneled into attention, and to have that capacity to go back and forth. The same thing with assigning meaning. If we're assigning meaning to something that's causing us fear or suffering or concern, we're the ones doing that. So the yoga then, I'm using this in a generic way, the yoga then is to cultivate a world where we just let go of the need to have to assign meaning, and then see what that is.
And, this certainly doesn't imply that we have to live in a universe without meaning, but we get to apply that meaning. So why not live in a universe where we apply beauty and truth and love and understanding, apply that level of meaning instead of contraction and fear.
Good. So let's come on up from here then. And let's straighten that left leg out. And let's take another rest, since that was quite significant with a backward and a forward bend. So we're going to do the other side of this, but let's relax back and take a rest. And I should be complete, and I should be clear when I say that the body is in the mind. It's also understood that the mind is in the body. This is why when we do venture below the surface, we can't really locate things. If we have a high magnification microscope, we can locate individual parts. But when we go below the surface, we cannot locate intelligence. It's everywhere in the body. We cannot locate the seat of emotions because they're everywhere in the body. And this is the beautiful, the beautiful invitation of yoga is that it is self-inquiry. It's not ever been meant to have a map to follow steps to then get to a certain place. It was always meant to sit quietly, to rest within the sense of beingness of oneself and see what's really there directly and experientially. And yoga was, initially, as it was received, it was not it was not meant to serve a therapeutic intention, or even really a spiritual intention. It was really meant to feel the nature of the direct experience of how energy just flows in and out of the body, and what is the nature of that energy. When we strip it of that energy of mind and body and heart and perceptions, what is there? And what, I don't want to give you a spoiler, but what yoga says is you are there. That is your essence. Your essence is that that vibratory presence that has no inherent meaning, but is infinite, expansive, eternal,
And the best we've ever come to describing the nature of who we are is unconditional love. Okay, so let's do the other side of that. And so we're just going to switch it over. So the only thing you may consider is this roll we're placing on the right half now of the lower lumbar may want to unroll a bit or may want to roll up a little bit. So it's going to be a little different there. So either way, keep the feet on the floor, tuck it in just to about the spine or a little over to the right, depending on how you're feeling there. And then we'll bring the upper body over. Again, the three places your legs are going to be is either straight out. Yeah, so this is sort of a medium compression. If you bring this time the left leg up, it tilts you off of it to release. And ultimately, what we're going to try to do for the time is bring that right leg up. So like the half butterfly position that we do forward, only this time that weight of that leg is just drawing you in. I don't really need to explain it. It's over time, it's quite lovely. This is a very, very effective not only lumbar muscle release, but part of what I was talking about, the curve of the lumbar. It starts to reestablish the curve of the lumbar spine and gives you more sort of spring and cushion in your step. And that's where a lot of the, the stiffness in the low back comes from, just to say. It's, certainly sitting is a culprit, but once the lumbar curve, the last curve of the spine loses its curve, it doesn't have the spring shock absorber effect. So then when we're walking, that lumbar spine is receiving compression that tightens it. So we want to reestablish the curve of this lumbar spine, and these long held, slow compressive backward bends is one way to do it. But we can't rush it. There will be no rushing in a system that just won't be rushed, because the fascial restrictions are, they're complicated, and they start to get dehydrated and entangled and layered, and you don't even have to understand it. You can feel it. Maybe just a little clarification. What I was saying earlier, that yoga really does not have a therapeutic intent. And of course, I'm speaking very generally, but for the most part, a therapeutic intention means we're interested in the content of the psychology. We're interested in the content of the thoughts. Yes, we want to untangle something that's, not working for us or bothering us. Perfectly fine practice to do. That's not yoga, though. Yoga is not being interested in the content, but being interested in the fabric of the thought. What is it actually? The content is quite secondary. And the same thing, yoga is not in a classical way a spiritual practice, and a spiritual practice, and again, in a very general way, is some movement towards a oneness, some movement towards, preparing ourselves for enlightenment, preparing ourselves to be one with God. Yoga is saying, no, no, no. The movement towards is the obstacle to. Yoga is simply saying, sit quietly, rest inwardly. And it's a simple recognition that you are that wholeness. You are enlightened. You are the God. And then if we doubt that, then we see if we can find any separation between us and everything. So yoga is just a simple resting, a simple recognition of our presence and the unlimitedness of that presence. And we slow down enough we relax enough, we stop assigning meaning enough to see that we cannot find the boundary. We cannot find the separation between us and anything, from our neighbor to the cosmos.
So once again, if you still have that right leg up and in, let's first of all straighten that out. It's just really nice to do this in stages, and you'll just feel that little bit of release. And then when you're ready, you can bring that left leg up, and that tilts you over a bit there. That's another layer of release. And then you can just roll a bit and just take that blanket out from that right side.
And then when you're ready, let's come on up and we'll just go the other way. Yes. So we'll keep that left leg out and that right leg in. So we're in this right part. So this extended left leg sort of finds its way into that right lumbar. You may or may not feel that. And just let the body relax. And that's really more of the key. Than the position is really secondary to kind of relaxing into the body. And every little step along the way, usually the body will guide you. If you need to release the knee a little bit, open up the left hip, bring in bolstering. So this is really what you want to listen to. The postures, just think of them as suggestions, but how you feel your way into your body, that's really intuitive. And certainly, by resting from the dominance of your thinking mind, I'm not suggesting that the intelligence that you have accumulated, the intelligence of your mind, is not valid. But what we're trying to do is we're really exploring to take the intelligence that's inherent to you, the intelligence of your mind, and awaken the intelligence of your body, which we cannot follow intellectually, yes? And then allow these two to intermingle. So to weave the intelligence of your mind into the intelligence of your body, and then you have something new. And it's this newness, it's this something new that we want to explore. And this is the art, really. This is the art of the yoga. No one can take you to this place. And this is what takes a patience, and it takes self-inquiry and stillness and silence. And it also takes a great honesty, because oftentimes the patterns of the mind are just that. They're patterns, they're habits, they're addictions that are no longer serving us. And the intelligence of the body is not so receptive to them. So we need to continually be in this place where we can let go of any element that's not working for us, any of these patterns that accumulate, and be able to open up more and awaken more the intelligence of the body, let it meld and blend with the intelligence of the mind, and then see what's there. So it's such a beautifully unique journey, and each of us have this capacity within us. This is really where yoga came from. Yoga just came from, simple people wanting to know themselves, sitting quietly and just listening to the pulsation of intelligence within themselves. Good. So let's come on up from here, please. And let's lie down and let's take a rest. And this is why, this awakening that I personally believe is so incredibly important. I think it's always been important, but especially now, I think we need to awaken to our, the nature of ourself, and not in a spiritual, esoteric way, but just the reality of it. And I think part of what the catalyst to this awakening is to take away any sense of specialness. That if we are one being, if there's one pure consciousness and we're all just expressions of that consciousness, then we're not any more or less special than anyone else, or a tree or a rock or a bird. And so we don't want to make our yoga about aesthetic looking flexible poses, or any type of spiritual demeanor, or anything except a quiet understanding that we are whole and complete. And that whole and complete is the wholeness and the completeness of all that is. It just is. And we all have accessibility to that. It just takes a moment, really. It just takes a moment to ask ourselves that question: am I aware? And what is that awareness? That's the self-inquiry. Not what I'm aware of, but that I am aware. And that awareness is That's the isness of it. So come on up, please. And what I have here is I have a blanket. I have actually two, well, yes, I have a blanket and a towel, but the blanket I have folded up to place in the mid back to really come into the thoracic area. So that would be one option, just to have this blanket, yeah, fold it up sort of like a yoga block. What I did with the towel though is I folded that up, and if you would like, if this height is not enough, because this is nice and soft, and if you want to go for a little bit more depth, put it on top of something. So you see I have a lot more height there, and then I'm going to have something to support my neck if my neck doesn't want to dangle all the way back. So build something like this, and I'll just try it with both things, but you can use just one if you want. And then I'm just going to place it way up in my mid back. Yep. Right about at the edge of my shoulder blades. And then coming back, let's see. So this is kind of high. Yeah, I probably wouldn't let my head dangle like that for so long. So I'm going to put something under the head so that feels supportive and safe. Yeah. And now it's come down a little low. I'm at the edge of my shoulder blades because it's kind of wide. I'm just going to shimmy my body down. So it's, yeah, so I don't have that lower thoracic lumbar stress. I want it more in the mid chest area. Yeah, so now my shoulder blades are pretty much on it. So that, but that's perfect. And then sometimes what you can do is however much you have the neck up, you can kind of explore a little bit and sometimes go for maybe 30 seconds, a minute or two, and be like, oh, okay, that's enough, and bring it back up. So again, a tricky, sensitive area we want to take good care of, but also not be afraid to explore, like, what is that resistance? Oh, yeah, I can just stay here with you. And then the arms can just be, the arms could actually relax over the head. That's kind of nice for the shoulders. Or you could just put the arms where they're supported. It's a little hard this high up, but that's good. Yeah, so something right up in that mid back section. And again, don't be concerned about making adjustments or shifting. So if you come into this and you're thinking, no, a little bit more would be good, fold something up, make it work. If you're feeling like you're right on the edge and it's not quite right, bring it down a little bit. Again and again, the posture is secondary to being able to, uh, viscerally and in a grounded, safe way, feel your body. And, especially if we're going to, open up this exploration, as I was talking about earlier, about weaving, the intelligence of your thinking mind with the intelligence of your body. So if the body just feels like it's in a position and something's being imposed on it and it's uncomfortable and not safe in this way, that's not opening a doorway to the body's intelligence. And the same thing if the mind feels overburdened with this idea. If you don't understand what I'm saying, don't put that burden on the mind. It's okay. We want to find an equilibrium between this somatic intelligence and this intellectual intelligence. So there's no, ABC in order to do this. It's intuitive. And sometimes it is a sifting out process. Sometimes a habit of your body mind it's almost like a stuckness. It's no longer working and something needs to be released to open up something new. So if it sounds complicated, if it doesn't sound comprehensible, then just let that part of you relax. Yes, let the intellectual part relax and go deeper into the body. If something's coming up in the body, something is being triggered or wants attention, pay attention to that. Let that relax as well. And really, in some ways, this is the heart of yoga, is this cultivation of an equilibrium between this intelligence of the body and the intelligence of the mind. So what we're really doing is we're waking up to this reality of being totally alive, which isn't just about being healthy and joyful and positive, but also to allow us to feel as genuinely and authentically as we can impermanence and aging and suffering and death. This is all part of it. So this is what I mean, that there may be layers that are are dormant or stuck or not working. So we don't want to have a superimposed agenda. This awakening is to awaken to the entire spectrum of being alive. So being able to rest with and to simply sit with whatever the vibration is, if it's uncomfortable and it seems rather inaccessible or whatever it is, to sit with it and sit with it and sit with it and rest with it and relax with it. And just trust, have faith in our own process of life that we are able to cultivate this equilibrium. We are very capable of expanding the whole spectrum of what we experience in life. No good, no bad, no judgment, just experiencing. And let that just flow through us. Let our flow be open. This is why a gentle, deep, calm, full body breath can be so, it just can be so beneficial when we just really take the time to feel the presence of the breath. Because the breath has no attachments. The breath is not going to tell us to, bring more attention here or focus there. The intelligence of the breath is it helps us understand that this equilibrium is a collaborative matrix, that it's all inclusive. So sometimes just to allow the body to soften, allow to distance from the content of the mind and let the thoughts come from nowhere and go to nowhere, and just simply breathe for no reason, but just to feel the power of this collaborative matrix that we are, the intelligence of it, and our ability to come into this equilibrium. It's really quite amazing, just going back to the breath for a moment, when we when we slowly inhale, and then when we feel like we've come to this point of resistance, our range of motion, to just keep inhaling and feel what that is. Why do we have more space there? Why are we not utilizing that space? And the same thing in the exhale. When we think we have honestly taken a full exhalation, but we can still keep exhaling, what is that? So this is, for most of us, unexplored territory. So a yin yoga pose can be a really important place to explore this, not only this range of motion, and see that we have more room to breathe, but also just the vital capacity of our lungs, and how much air we take in is based on how much air we release. How much air we release is in relation to how much air we take in. And again, not as a technique, but as a slow, visceral exploration of like, whoa, I can keep going here. I can keep going here. I can feel this. There's this space that I've not been feeling, and just explore the breath on this very, a very personal level. So let's think about coming out of this now. Any movement you need here, this is always an interesting area to come out of. So put the feet on the floor, certainly, and maybe arms over the head and stretch it, or let the knees go back and forth, or whatever feels like the movement is going to open up some of those muscles so that you don't tweak them coming out. And then when you make your way out, we'll lie down and we'll take a rest. So let's have another little rest here. Lovely. So let's come on up, and we're going to go back to just the straddle. We're not going to add the shoelace back to it because I want to put a different forward bend in. But let's start here. So we've done this once already. So you can maybe open your legs a little wider if you'd like, or bring them in. The most important thing is to make sure that the hips have some relative relaxation. The quadriceps are not contracted and the feet are not activated. Yep. So we want that relaxed. So when we come forward, then that relaxation can receive instead of the muscular tension that's going to resist. So relax as much as you can. You can soften that lower back. We don't want to extend it. And again, we don't want to activate muscles. We want to try to unengage them if we can. And then come to bolstering or forearms or forehead or whatever your position is. And we'll settle in here for a bit.
Good. So let's come on up. And just a simple little adjustment. We'll bring the soles of the feet together. And we'll go right back into our forward bend. So especially in this position, because we're, also dealing with the tilt of the pelvis, we want to soften that lower back as much as we can. So we don't want to stretch or stress against that pelvic tilt. Sometimes it's convenient to just sit up on the edge of something if it's tilting too far back. But those lower lumbar muscles want to be relaxed, the psoas relaxed, so we can really soften into the lower back as much as possible. And here especially too, to be again aware of the weight of the head. If you can tolerate the stress in the neck and the discomfort of the neck, this is how we massage it out over time. And not to underestimate this fundamental grounding of the body, really feeling grounded right down into the earth. Because we don't want to misunderstand that the yoga is really about muscle or fascia or yin or yang, or any of these labels that sometimes we just need to use to communicate. But really the deepest and the simplest yoga is for us to come into a very grounded place where we don't ignore and we don't fixate. We don't fixate and we don't ignore. And so we're just open, we're grounded, and then we're open to what is arising. And then it's our relationship to what is arising that determines our experience. And this is why we opened with allowing some space and some relaxation from this process of thinking. Because the process of thinking is also the process of labeling and defining, and particularly thinking we know something about something. So the space of not ignoring and not fixating allows this open not knowing, where this collaboration of mind and body, this collaboration of intelligence can intermingle and then inform us in a direct way that's personal and unique to us. And so the shape of the body just becomes a container to explore that. In and of itself, it will allow us some physical benefits, but it's much, much more than that. It is this place to come into a sacred space of stillness and silence to explore this ultimate spaciousness that we are, this intelligence that we are. Good. So let's come on up from here then, please. And the same thing, you can open your legs all the way out, go right back to where we were. Or if you prefer, you can put something under your knees, a little roll towel or a small bolster. So we still have a good width there, but we're just then supporting if those hamstrings need a little release. This also helps you to get a little more sensitive to the tilt of the pelvis I was talking about. and then we'll just come forward again. Any thought that arises, know that it came from nowhere. Detach from any content, as interesting and entertaining as it might be, and simply let it dissolve back to nowhere. These are not your thoughts. These thoughts come from nowhere. They come from the universe. And we have plenty of modalities to be interested in them and examine them, be creative with them. But we also want to find this space between them. We want to just let them naturally deconstruct and then see what our experience is. This is the beautiful thing about even getting a little bit of distance from them, is we are still present, we're still conscious, we're still aware. And this is an extremely valuable option that you can cultivate. And this is like I said in the beginning, this is one of the doorways when we can see that we're not our thoughts. Ah, relax. I am not my body. Ah, relax. I simply am what does not change. Good. So let's come on up, please. And if you'd like to move into that original restorative position, you're free to do that with the padding of the pelvis, the legs up, the roll under the neck. You can come into any Shavasana that you prefer, or you could sit up with me, and we'll take a few moments and let things unravel a bit and close our lovely yin practice.
Let us be more grounded, more gracious, more grateful. Namaste.